Hello, I'm doing the podcast. This one, oh, where, ha, who, what, who. This one. Okay. Who, who, ha. How, okay. It's the technology news. Technology, I think it is technology news.
We haven't been getting as many over there, so if you like Monero and you want to tip us Monero and ask us a question one time, it's a great way to do so. So check us out via either avenue down in the description. And now we're going to go into David Johnson's question. What top 3 privacy and security enhancing / degrading practices do you wish you did or correspondingly did not embrace earlier in your life on with hindsight? I'm going to reword that. What 3 things would we have changed in our privacy journey? One of them that I'm very conflicted on, and I'm sure Nate might feel similarly about this, I'm still very polarized on this, is showing my face. As a content creator, I didn't think much about it, to be honest. I just kind of did it. I showed my face before it was like exclusively a super, privacy oriented channel on my end. And so it's not something I put much thought into. With that said, looking back on it, the channel just wouldn't be what it is without my face and having a person behind it. And I think it would be a lot less personal and it wouldn't carry the same message. So that's one thing that I wish I just made a conscious decision about, if that makes sense. And I might have come to the same decision, but it was never really well thought out. So that's number 1 for me. Number 2,
I know it's like hard to come up with 3 on the spot, right?
Yeah, we do these on the spot, so we don't do that much prep. I will say a reason why this is hard is it is about kind of the perspective you have about your mistakes, because most mistakes you're going to make, even in life in general, aren't like devastating. They're not going to like dramatically impact the rest of your life. And as long as you see those as things that you're learning and that are going to update your future, it's a good perspective to have. And it's why it's hard for me to find things I would have changed, because a lot of mistakes I made were not long-term mistakes and things that I learned from. And now I know better. For all of you out there, definitely try to see those mistakes as long-term wins.
While you're thinking of number 2, because I'm in the same boat, one thing came to mind and I'm not sure about number 2 and 3. So while you're thinking, I'll share my thing that came to mind is I wish I had done things sooner. In the sense that I have this famous story. So when I moved into my current place, the ISP is included with our housing. One of the things the ISP does is they don't allow port forwarding. So I can't put any of my usual like Nextcloud or Jellyfin. If I self-host them in the house instead of a VPS, I can't send them out to the wider internet directly the way I used to. So I had to start looking into other alternatives, and people very quickly recommended Cloudflare Tunnel. And for the longest time, I put it off because I was like, in my experience, anytime I do something new, it takes at least half a day because I have to like figure it out, tinker with it, break something, redo it, start over, blah, blah, blah. So I put it off forever. And then when I finally sat down to do it, it was literally like, oh, copy and paste this command on your server and then run it with this command. And it was literally like 5 minutes. That's all I had to do. And I was like, oh my God, I could have done this 3 weeks ago. And I mean, that one's a little different because I was like trying to make sure I had the time to like break it and redo it. But just so many things that like I put off because I'm like, oh, this is going to be hard. This is going to take a lot of work. And a lot of the time it turns out to be easier than expected. Or alternately, I start doing it and I find those things sooner. That like, okay, next time I do it, I want to do this differently. And I think that's one thing for sure that I wish I'd done different.
I came up with one, potentially a hot take. I'm going to approach it very carefully here because it's not a full negative. I wish that I embraced the middle ground sooner with my privacy journey. Where I'm going with this is I think that I was in the very intense, inconveniencing my life way too much period for a lot longer than I needed to be in, like years. And I feel like during that time period, there was more sacrifices made than I realized at the time, if that makes sense. And that, looking back on it now, I think actually paused a lot of things. Like I think in some ways, like I had less time to work on Techlore. I had less time to like be with other people. And there was just a lot of things I sacrificed for that. And for what benefit at the end of the day, it's like not a huge benefit from what I can tell. And so I kind of wish I embraced more of the middle ground and found what my middle ground was. But without going to that extreme, I also wouldn't know what the middle ground is. And so what I've been trying to communicate with people recently is like, hey, it's okay to go maybe too far, like figure out what the limit is, do it, but be ready to quickly like understand why it's the limit and then find yourself the proper middle ground.
Just to add on to what you were saying is sometimes you do something that seems extreme and you realize like, oh, for you at least, like maybe not for everybody, but like, oh, for me, this is fine. Like I see a lot of discussion online where people argue over like custom phone OSs and they're like, oh, not everybody can run Graphene and Calyx because like certain apps don't work and blah, blah, blah. And that's totally true. But for me, it has been almost no disruption to my life whatsoever. Once every 6 months, there's like, oh, this app won't work or like I can't do this thing. And then I find a workaround and I move on because it's like a one-time situation and it's really not a big deal. So yeah, like sometimes going to that extreme, like I'd say 90% of the time you're gonna be like, okay, that was too far. Let me pull back a little bit. But also there's that 10% of the time that you're gonna be like, oh, this is fine. I can roll with this. This is no big deal. But I do agree with Henry. Like that's something that I preach too is like, if you do too much, you can always go back. Like if you delete Discord or Facebook and you're like, oh, actually I got a lot of value out of that. You can sign right back up. They will take you back. There's very few things in privacy that once you do it, it's just permanent and you can't go back. I'm sure there's some, but they're pretty rare.
I think that's all I'm going to be able to come up with on the spot. And I think there's enough to think about there.
It's a weird human psychological trick that when you put somebody on the spot, suddenly their mind blanks. David Johnson's next question says, if it is said that data is the new oil, why are we not seeing those with birthright to said data building artificial islands or stocking up on private jets? Do you think perhaps it might be more descriptive to class data as the new gold?
I think they are.
I think he's saying the fact that like birthright to the said data, like, us, like the people who are making that data.
Oh, I see.
I think you're kind of splitting hairs, to be honest. I've actually seen data as the new oil is a really controversial take. And to be honest, I think it's nitpicky and stupid. But there's people who argue that data is the new oil isn't really a fair phrase because like, why is it? It's like oil has to be refined and it has like there's a finite amount of oil. And it's like, okay, but like data has to be refined and like there's finite use cases for it theoretically. Like the point of the phrase data is the new oil is because in the Industrial Revolution, oil suddenly became a valuable resource. And once that happened, anybody who stumbled upon oil suddenly became rich overnight. Gold has like always been there. Gold has always been something that has had value in society. And like this is a whole different rabbit hole of like what is value, what is a store of value, what is money. Oil is a really good example because up until recently, it didn't really have a high demand and a use case. Like I'm sure it was a thing that people found from time to time, but it was just kind of like, oh, there's oil there, who cares? And then once we found a use for it, suddenly it was super valuable. And like you can see that in the age of surveillance capitalism, for example. Shoshana Zuboff talks about how Google was collecting all the metadata from their searches and they were kind of sitting on it like, we don't really know what to do with this. And then somebody came along and was like, well, what if we feed it back into the algorithm and learn from the users and kind of tweak the results to what we know about them, and thus Google search became what it is today, or what it was up until recently when everybody universally agrees it's garbage now. I think new gold, I don't know. I don't think that's really any more fitting. I would say that's less fitting because of the reasons I explained. I don't know. I think the phrase holds up. I think that's kind of the extent of my thoughts.
I have no thoughts on this, actually.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a really philosophical question, but I think it's kind of splitting hairs. I think data is the new oil is a perfectly apt phrase, but I don't think it really matters either way.
The reason why I don't have thoughts is it's not something I know much about, and I literally just hear everybody claim everything is the new gold nowadays. I'm just like, you know what? I don't care. Like, if something becomes the new store of value, we're going to know, and we're all going to move to it. And the only people who are going to actually like take advantage of it are people who are already insanely wealthy, who are going to be in a position to take advantage of it. And I think people have this idea that it's ridiculous. I have no issue saying that. People have this idea that things like Bitcoin are going to like somehow redistribute wealth to different people. That's just not going to happen. Bitcoin doesn't solve the fundamental human problems of our economic system. Like the whole reason people are getting rich off of Bitcoin is because they acquired a lot faster before everybody else did. Like that's not a fair system where just because you got to something first, you get more resources than the next person who might even be contributing more to society than you are. When people say that privacy is a human right, what basic level of personal privacy do you think should be entitled to protection? And honestly, this is a cop-out answer. I think if we just...
Okay, I'd like to ask the question, is Bitcoin and a needy entity, a needy thing to have to create money, or you cannot be rich if you're not in the system or you don't know how to use it or whatever?
This question more, that would be the win that we need to see, because there isn't going to be something that we're going to agree upon, right? Like what is a human right is largely debated between countries, between states. That's why we have a complex legal system. Like that's really all this, that's all a legal system does, is it helps disputes and it helps decide if something like invaded someone's rights or not. And that's why we have these systems set up. So all I'll say to that is I don't know, but I think if that question was asked a bit more, then we would get to at least a better answer than where we are right now.
I really agree, because I think human rights are, in a lot of ways, I think they're a lot more complicated than people realize, because things like food is a human right. Okay, so in a famine situation, let's remove like the cause of the famine. Maybe it's like government corruption like in Ethiopia back in the 80s. In a famine situation, does your right to food give you the right to come and take my food? Assuming like I don't have access, assuming I only have enough food that I need. You need food too. Are you supposed to come and take my food and now I don't get food? Like human rights, I think, are a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, and like if something's a right, does that mean you get it for free? Like if it's a right, shouldn't the government give food for free? Like that's a whole different discussion.
And like you said, like what is a right is, first of all, kind of constantly evolving with society. Like I know some countries view the internet as a human right now because the world has become so digital. And other countries, like here in America, I think if you said that to most people, they would kind of laugh and be like, what are you talking about? You know, nobody owes you the internet. But even as they say with a smartphone in their pocket that they're using to pay with their tap to pay debit card. Anyways, I think the general rule of thumb is, you know, there's the saying that like your right to swing your fist ends where my nose begins or something like that, which again is like a really catchy way of saying it. But like, where does that actually, like when you look at free speech, there's so much debate, especially when we talk about, I know I'm gonna get really controversial here, but when people talk about like hate speech, for example, what counts as hate speech? Like there are certain things that we can universally agree that like that was probably over the line. That's probably not protected speech. But then there's other things that half of the people would argue like, that's hate speech, that's inciting hateful behavior, whereas the other half of the people would be like, well, they're not calling for violence or anything. Like there are gray areas. I think people much smarter than us have been debating this for decades and probably will continue to debate it. And I don't think we'll ever have a clear answer because like Henry said, like that's why we have a legal system is, and I've seen this firsthand. When you read the laws for anything, some of those laws you will read and you will be like, why is this a thing? Like, why has this come up? Why is this codified? Who ran into this issue? But if you work at the elections office, you'll be like, man, I run into that issue like once a month. Like this is surprisingly common. And then there were also times that people would call in and be like, oh, here's my situation. And it's like, wow, nobody could have predicted the situation. This really is like a 1 in a million. I'm not sure what to do here. That's where the courts come in, is there's so much gray area and nuance that like we need people to kind of handle those case by case situations where it's new territory or it's kind of something that nobody could have predicted. And now we need to parse out like, where does the nose end? Where does the air begin? Like it's, yeah, I don't think there's any one way to say like, oh, here's the basic level that's universally applicable, especially from us. Like I said, I think off the top of my head, I think there's some, and again, like drilling into these would require like years of lawyers sitting down and thinking this stuff through. But I think a good starting point would be things like data sovereignty, like the right to be forgotten in the EU, I think would be a really good one nowadays. Things like having meaningful choice, not right now, this, you know, agree to the terms of service or go f yourself. Like just the right to opt out of like being tracked literally everywhere all the time. I think a lot of it would just come down to control and choice. Like a lot of privacy in a perfect world from the legislative side of things, a lot of privacy as a human right would just come down to the ability to know how you're being tracked, the ability to opt out of it, the ability to have control over your data, whether that means taking your data to another service or requesting deletion of your data. I think at the most basic level, that would be a good place to start. But I think it very quickly would become nuanced and full of gray area, like a lot of things in life. Our next question comes from Ghost. This one I think is actually a couple weeks old. You sent it to us in DMs, and I meant to include it. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot. And then you reposted it again on one of the Q&As, so thank you for doing that. That was my fault, though. But this was right after we talked about Android 16 and how the Pixel device trees weren't released. You said, thank you for covering the recent news. Your coverage reflects a lot of what I've been reading about. You say privacy-motivated folks have a few options. Stock Android has lots of privacy concerns. Stock iOS has similar privacy concerns and maintains the walled garden. Custom Android development, as you noted, has been dealt a rather large blow, and true Linux phones are just not usable for most folks. For those of us who want to take advantage of features like virtualized desktop, but are rightfully worried about giving up privacy and security to do it, what do you recommend? Is there a way to truly lock down stock Android without modifying the core firmware? I'm not sure what you mean by virtualized desktop. Maybe you're talking about how the Android phones, you can like plug them into a monitor?
I think so, yeah, and then use them as your desktop, yeah.
You say, is there a way to truly lock down stock Android without modifying the core firmware? I'm going to point you to the New OS website because I have a page that is just a list of settings changes I recommend for both iOS and Android, and they're separate, so you can skip past one to go to the other. Every time there's a new version of Android, and before my iPhone broke, iOS, so now I'm behind on iOS, but I go through every single setting. And I look through like, okay, what's new? What's changed? What do I think people should turn off? What do I think is probably fine? I mean, is there a way to truly lock it down? Not without a lot of workarounds. Like there's always going to be an amount of telemetry, an amount of privacy that you're giving up. But I think for either device, iOS or Android, I think there's and also apps and social accounts, like there's a lot you can do just by going through and changing the settings. And then on top of it, you can add in third-party services. Like a lot of VPNs nowadays come with ad blockers built in. You could use things like AdGuard. There's definitely a lot of options out there. It'll never be perfect. It'll never be the same as using a custom OS. But I think you can do a pretty good amount just on stock if you have to.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only thing I'll say to this question is I'm just unhappy with the mobile space. You're right. There is no great solution. I feel like in a lot of ways we take Linux for granted for desktop because it kind of is in a lot of ways a very ideal solution, which is as a whole maintained a lot of compatibility, is very usable for what people expect from a desktop experience. And yeah, still has a long ways to go to fully catch up to others. But even then, like macOS is not, in my view, akin to Android and iOS on mobile. Because I think on macOS, you can actually pretty much disable almost all the telemetry that Apple does. You can completely avoid an Apple account. And all these third-party tools can pretty much make macOS insanely private, and you still have good security. So there's not even this like middle ground option that I'm trying to refer to on desktop, which is I think macOS.
Real quick, you can kind of do that on Android. Like on stock Android, you can continue without a Google account. It's not quite the same, but it's similar.
It's possible, right? Like, yeah, you can do that, but you're missing very critical functionality on Android, and there's still things that you can't really guarantee for on stock. You can try removing Google Play services altogether. It's not something even I would like fully pursue. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just personally unhappy with the mobile space right now. I think that it's not a great situation. And I do think that having a Linux phone option would be great for the space, and one that's more usable and would actually kind of normalize certain technologies that maybe we would see in iOS and Android as well. Because I want Linux phones to succeed. And anytime I've like gone at them and I'm like, no, this sucks, it's like terrible to use, it's still because like I want this to be usable someday.
Real quick on that note, after the last time we talked about Linux phones, I kind of like revisited some stuff just out of curiosity, and I noticed Ubuntu Touch specifically, I think it's called like UB ports now or something like that. It'll show up if you search for Ubuntu Touch. I noticed weirdly, their most supported device, I think, is like the Volaphone. Or Voya, however that's pronounced, instead of the Pine. Like the Pine phone is still considered like in beta. The Volaphone is, I think it's still technically like not considered fully stable, but if you look at the number of like supported features, it's not like 90%, then 95% there. I know when we talk about Linux phones, we tend to think of like, Pine phone or Purism or something, but I just wanted to throw out there, like it may be worth going to the OS websites or like doing some research if you're interested in supporting the Linux market and trying to find something that's maybe a little bit more daily. I'm not saying it is for sure, but like if I were going to go with something right now, I think I would probably try to get my hands on a Volaphone and put UB Touch on it, because that to me looks really promising. And I guess my point is like if we think outside the box, there might be some more options that might be a little more doable for people.
Okay, so the last question is from Arc. It's about private calendars, so things like Proton Calendar and Tutum, regarding the end-to-end encryption aspect. So they pretty much are saying they don't understand why these are necessary compared to something like email. Is the concern that a company like Google or some other untrustworthy party can just have access to all of your events and reminders stored in your calendar if it's not private and secure? And then they expand. In my case, I'm experimenting with moving away from Proton Calendar. Instead, they have a CalDAV server on their NAS, and then they use Tailscale to connect to that. Am I losing some significant privacy or security by going this route as opposed to sticking with something like Proton Calendar? Yeah, it's a good question. So stuff I've reflected on as well. The reason why end-to-end encryption is important for something like this is, yes, exactly what you were referring to. It's to restrict the amount of data that a company can get about you, and it's to guarantee that that data is yours. Some people might really not like this analogy. The way that I see end-to-end encryption is like as close to self-hosting as you can do through a provider, if that makes sense. It's pretty much saying like, no, this is your data. And I think a better example here isn't necessarily end-to-end encryption, but like zero knowledge encryption, if that makes sense. Because that's better referring to what's going on here, which is that it's only you that has knowledge of the data. The provider that's like actually hosting your data doesn't know anything about it. If law enforcement is like tapping them, then they can't see it. There are lots of legal situations, for example, where like the events that you're going to and the people that you're meeting with are actually very sensitive things that can't be leaked. And if that's in any way leaked or someone requests that data from a party, that could really jeopardize a lot of people. And so it is very important for certain individuals. Now, of course, this falls apart on its face a little bit when you start including like, if you have Proton Calendar, but you invite someone that doesn't even have Proton into the calendar, and then that's on their calendar as well, then yeah, it kind of violates the purpose to some extent. Kind of like when you use Proton Mail via email and you send it to someone that has Gmail and you don't use an encrypted email, then that a copy of that email is in that person's Gmail as well. But again, I think the ideal use case is like you're part of a team or you're collaborating with some people and you guys have a higher threat model and you need to make sure that your calendars and events stay with just you, and then you all join like a shared end-to-end encrypted calendar with Proton Calendar. I would also argue what you're doing accomplishes that as well. If you're hosting your own NAS with your own Nextcloud instance and that's also being kept to a select few number of people, then yeah, it's still accomplishing the same thing, which is it's your data and no one else is really accessing that data. So I personally think that in a lot of ways they do accomplish the same thing, and end-to-end encryption makes a bit less sense when it's like in a self-hosted environment where you have access to all the data. It's still important for other reasons, because then like theoretically someone who hacks your Nextcloud instance still can't get access to the data because theoretically it's encrypted unless it's on a device where there's an encryption key stored. So there are some other considerations like that. But I think you're kind of on the right track of thinking about how critically important this is in some situations and how uncritically important it is in others.
I think as with almost anything we talk about, I think threat modeling is a really important consideration here. I think on the most basic, like universally applicable level, in the sense of like we think everyone should think about this, is the idea of just opting out of data mining. So if you switch from, for example, say like Google and Google Calendar or Apple, but you switch over to something like does StartMail have a calendar, I think? Or Fastmail, like one of those.
I don't think they do.
I want to say it's Fastmail. There's companies like that come with calendars, and these are companies that they're not encrypted, but they do promise like we will never mine your data, we'll never look at your stuff without a court order, but we respect your privacy, and that's why we charge money, because that's our business model. We're not selling ads. And I think, for example, if you were to switch to one of those services where like it's not encrypted, but there is a solid business model and they respect your privacy, I think that could be one way of solving that solution. And at that point, again, like the kind of universal, like almost everyone should care about this, is just finding a company that respects your privacy and isn't mining your data. And then the step above that is the whole idea of third parties can see your events. So pulling out a random idea here, let's say there's a protest in your area that happens to turn violent. And in your calendar, you have lunch with somebody a block away from that protest at the same time it's happening. I don't know if this is a thing. I'm kind of making up a scenario here. But let's say the police do kind of like a geofence warrant, and they say, anyone who was in that area at this time, if they can see your calendar, they could place you in that area and say, well, he was at lunch a block away. Maybe that was a lie. Maybe he was actually at the protest and that was just his like code word. Again, I'm making up a scenario here, but my point is like, that's kind of the next level of concern, is like somebody actually looking at it with some kind of malicious intent. I think some other considerations would be things like ease of use. Nobody in my family is ever going to self-host Nextcloud, and they're goddamn sure never going to set up Tailscale. We use Tailscale here for Henry and I to like trade files for surveillance support. Even for me, it's a little bit complicated to set up. So not everybody has that kind of resource. Not everybody can afford a NAS. I think there is that consideration. If all that's in your calendar is just really mundane stuff, like, hey, I got to do the laundry on Friday, I got to remember to call my grandma, those things are probably not a big deal. But things that are a little bit more sensitive, I think your setup works perfectly fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like Henry said, I think you kind of really hit the nail on the head. I think things like Proton and Tuda are making it easy enough that, especially because we encourage people to consider using those services in the first place, you may as well take advantage of the calendar while you're there. But I think there are perfectly legitimate reasons to not use it, especially if you can self-host it yourself, especially if you have concerns about like putting all your eggs in one basket.
With that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. So again, thank you, David, for the different philosophical questions and for hardening advice and also the value of encrypted calendars. Thank you all for tuning in, asking questions, and maybe learning a few things here and there. We really appreciate all of these, and we appreciate your support for the podcast. And hopefully you learn some things from us, or just get some different perspectives on the way we look at things. If you want to join the next Q&A, you can do so already right now on Patreon. It's already live, so you just go in the description right now, join Patreon, and you'll see the Q&A post there, and you can go ahead and ask whatever question you want. Or you can do the same thing on xmrchat.com. So if you have some Monero, you can literally just log in right now. All it requires is a name. You can put anything you want, a message. You can ask anything you want that's appropriate, and you can put in however much Monero you want, and then you just click submit, and that's literally all you have to do. So those are the two ways that you can join the next Q&A, and we're excited to see next week's questions. So see you guys next week.
Whoa. Oh, adios amigos, is it? Chusha, shashu, shushi. Shushi, shashi.
Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows homes, so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between Mac?
Your next Bunnings run? Grab Kango. Ready to go. Visit kangotools.com.au.
Hey, Neil, 30 more years of this?
Hi, I'm your friend Eli. That's Jay Kastronakis.
Hello.
David Pierce is here. I like imagining Vogue as just like everyone is wearing, it both is and is not an Xbox in a way that is driving a lot of people on the internet absolutely up the wall. Wait, everything at this point is and is not an Xbox. The state of being an Xbox is probabilistic. This is what I mean. Yes, but this one's called Xbox.
Like every morning I wake up and think to myself, am I an Xbox? And then I go through the list of what games I support. And, and many days the answer is yes.
It's beautiful for you. Is your Samsung Frame TV an Xbox?
It could be, because you can run Game Pass on it, right?
Yeah.
So wait, I have not paid a lot of attention to Game Pass. So this is just a VR headset, and it's got the one app in it that runs in 2D, right? So you're in the VR environment, and it puts up a big fake TV, a big virtual TV, and then it just runs Game Pass on it?
That's right.
Like, it's not even running VR games?
No, the Quest does that anyway. This is just purely like a branding exercise. And again, I think the branding exercise makes a lot of sense, but it is just a branding exercise. This is a, like, I don't know, imagine some celebrity picked a color scheme for a Quest and it did that. This is that. It's just called an Xbox. So people assume it's going to be an Xbox.
Well, it's an Xbox in the sense that Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is Xbox.
If that's an Xbox, we're all Xbox.
That's just what I'm saying. Every
You
morning
are an
I wake up.
Xbox, yeah.
All right. It's very confusing. I'm trying to figure out who is making money here.
Microsoft seems to have some very long-term plan here to redefine what the Xbox is, and they are really overshooting for what they can actually deliver on today. That seems to be like I do not see how Xbox is benefiting from this right now when they're just confusing everybody.
So my understanding is that Xbox came in second place the last two generations, right?
Yes.
The PS4 and the PS5 blew the Xbox away, and then the Switch and presumably the Switch 2 they're all going to be great, and that's going to be its whole thing over there. And it feels like Microsoft is reacting to coming in second place as though they have failed so completely they need to burn it all down. Right? And they're like, we will reconceptualize the very concept of an Xbox and turn it into like a PC console gaming situation on handheld, cloud streaming service on VR headsets, and then the actual console is like of little value to them.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Like that's kind of what this all feels like. But I'm just saying the Quest 3S is not a huge hit for Meta. Right? There's been reporting that they've kind of lost interest in Quest because their glasses are the success, which we'll talk about in a second. The Ray-Bans and now the Oakley smart glasses feel like their future.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, an unsuccessful VR headset is being paired with an unsuccessful gaming brand to accomplish what?
The thing about it is, I actually think, in a certain way, calling this thing an Xbox makes it make more sense because it is a gaming machine. Like, everybody who works on VR stuff will tell you this is not true, but VR is a gaming platform. It just is.
But this doesn't play VR games. This is the same as one of those X-Real glasses that just puts up a fake TV.
Yeah, that's also an Xbox. Apple Vision Pro, also an Xbox. Do you know what I mean? Like, what isn't an Xbox?
Help!
But I think, like, to the extent that this just screams, this is a large screen on which to play games, I'm not bothered by it. Sure. But the thing you're describing is why people are getting tripped up, because it's like, oh, this should now play my Xbox games. And it isn't that simple. And so we're in this position of like, many more people know what to make of Xbox than know what to make of Quest. So I can actually see why bringing Quest and Xbox together makes sense for shipping this headset. Except it's not fully an Xbox. I get turned in circles. But ultimately, this thing is like a limited edition and looks very cool, and not so many people get it. So it's like, whatever. But I do find it sort of fascinating that they're like leaning into this thing is for games, and Microsoft is like, games are for everything. And they're like, oh, I see why you're friends. Like, sure.
Yeah, just on the one hand, Microsoft spent last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago, talking about the ROG Ally and being like, the future of Xbox is Windows games on the go. We also support Steam. And then one turn later, they're like, it's a limited cloud gaming library on the Quest. It just feels like they've lost sight of what they want Xbox to be, so it's everything. And yeah, who knows?
Agreed.
The Meta smart glasses, they are a success, at least according to the metrics Meta keeps saying. And they've expanded them this week. And now they've got Oakley smart glasses. Same basic concept as the Ray-Bans, only they look like Oakleys. And they shoot 3K video, slightly higher resolution video because they're slightly bigger, is basically my understanding of the product.
Yeah, pretty much. The thing I thought was really interesting, Alex Heath talked to one of the folks on the team building this stuff, and they confirmed what we have always suspected, which is that people use these glasses for two things. One is audio and one is camera. Mm-hmm. And they call them AI glasses, which is very funny. It's like, well, we're going to call this thing a thing no one uses them for. But like this positioning makes sense. Doing it with Oakley makes sense. I don't think these glasses are particularly good looking, but I also can't pull off Oakleys in general, so I'm not like a great person to judge.
When you went on the 8th grade trip to DC, did everybody buy fake Oakleys?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I've owned so many fake Oakleys in my life.
We called them.
What'd you call them?
Jokeleys?
Oh, we were Folkleys.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, they were good. But yeah, I think like this thing Meta is doing continues to make perfect sense to me. It's still not clear how you bridge the gap between this and the Orion glasses that we talked about before, because they're like the technical breakthroughs required to get from one to the other are vast and unsolved. But just this thing where like Meta has a hit at relative scale doing this basic kind of stuff, and they've just decided to lean into this is the thing that everybody wants. We will figure out how to stack capabilities on top of it over time. Feels like the right move to me.
It also feels really clear that their partnership with Luxottica has just continued to pay dividends here, right? Like, you need glasses that are naturally chunky enough to fit this hardware. Totally. And they have managed to find multiple styles here that adapt well to this additional hardware that are already formats that people know and love, right? These are very popular glasses. They're very popular brand name.
I want to know about... Get this out. Get out. Get out. Get out. You come here.
Coming up, we'll be telling you all about what's new in Android 16 and TalkBack 16.
You're listening to Double Tap, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Sean Priest.
Hey, Sean Priest, welcome to another show. How are you today?
Never mind all that. How are you, Stephen Scott? That's what the nation is worried about. How is Stephen Scott today?
I can report I'm feeling a little bit better.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Charming.
So, today we're talking Android and not Apple. What's going on?
Yeah, sorry about that. Clearly I screw up somewhere. It's all right. We'll get back on track tomorrow. It's funny, actually, because we got a nice little WhatsApp message from Tom in Colorado who says, you know what, I checked out that exclusive podcast feed you've got, and it's just full of Apple talk. That's all it is. It's just all dub-dubs and dollops.
He wasn't particularly glowing about it, although he did say he enjoyed it, I think, in there somewhere. So, yeah, sorry about that. But you know what, to be fair, though, Thomas, you know, it is DC sort of season, if you like. So I think we've talked it out, though. I don't think there's anything left to say, is there?
No, and I have to say, though, I thought the conversation we had with Callum and Michael was pretty interesting because we got into a lot of other cool stuff that we didn't know about when we came to air on the Tuesday.
Yes.
Because we recorded the first episode straight off the heels of the event itself, and we were reacting live to that. And actually, you know what? I think I will come back to this on one particular area. Everyone's talking about this liquid glass. And I've got to say, Shelley Brisbane, who was on with us, was, you know, we were kind of having a joke around it, but I see she's writing some comment about it now for her 6 Colours publication that she works for. And she's been doing some reporting, and I see some of her social media posts. She's not happy at all about this whole liquid glass thing, especially because it seems to get away from it. You just have to turn it off, which seems ridiculous. It seems redundant. And she's not happy at all about it. So maybe we'll get back on to talk about that specifically at some point, especially as it nears release. Because, you know, I think, you know, from here on in, I know you're going to hear other podcasts that'll talk all about, you know, the betas and what's going on. I'm not listening to that. You know, the social media posts, these people who whinge and whine and moan about, oh, it doesn't work and it's not working. Well, don't download the beta.
All right,
I've said this
Stephen,
before,
calm down.
and I'm saying it again.
Calm down, you're
Stop
real.
downloading the betas. They shouldn't allow anybody who's not a developer to download the beta. That's my take on it.
Okay. I don't say it's up to you if you download it, but you've got to take responsibility for, you know, any problems that arise.
People take responsibility.
Okay, all right, calm down.
I'm feeling better, though. I feel good today. I feel a bit better. Yeah,
Good,
my
I'm
coffee.
glad.
I'm feeling good. I'm not sneezing as much today, so that's a good sign. Don't have a sore back.
I was told I can't eat fruit anymore.
I'd love to be you. Can I grow up to be you?
No, someone
You
told
can't
me.
eat fruit. Who told you that?
No. You know, I've been, you know, cutting down on the sugar and everything else, right? And I was told, who knew, breaking news, apples are delicious. I've just discovered it. I have about 5 apples a day. And then I was, you know, gloating about this. Oh, yes, I've only ate for 3 apples this morning and blah, blah, blah. Oh, apples are really bad for you. They're full of sugar.
No. This is rubbish. This is exactly what happened to me as well. I used to, honestly, I feel I could drag the carcass of an animal into my office and cook it in the office and eat it and consume the entire thing, and not a soul would say a word because they would say, well, you know, Stephen's got a terrible diet. That's the kind of thing Stephen would do. And as soon as you say to someone, I'm trying to eat a bit healthy, I'm just having a banana, they go, well, you can't eat too many things.
Hey, Delbers, I got access on Thursday. I signed up in March, and they emailed me on Thursday and said, hey, we're ready for you to join us. So I have it now. So let's see what we can do. Now, one thing I will tell you, you were saying in the podcast, you're going to have to go out of the A-Lady Plus to control smart home devices and stuff. I'm sure that is true for some things, but I can, Ecobee, my thermostat, has already pivoted and can control it.
And the amount of noise is just so overwhelming. And people are trying to talk to you, and you know, across the table. And the problem is you don't know they're talking to you.
Yeah, you can't
so you have that
hear
whole thing of, oh, hello, can you hear me? And I'm like, sorry, are you talking to me? And then, of course, you don't get a response because they're probably nodding.
Yeah.
So you go, oh, they're not talking to me then. So you turn away. And that thing of, you don't want to come across, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that guy that goes to a wedding and be that person who I saw loads of old guys who would be at weddings and sit in the corner and just look as if they...
All right, we're not gonna listen to you. I don't really care. Okay. You know why? Because we already know the answer for all that. It's just that you turn your phone into noise device, and you can only hear your voice and no one around it. You know what I mean? On your camera, you can get an app or something and can help you on your camera updates. You know, for your phone. You can do many things that you wanna. I'm gonna go.
Android 16's live updates miss the beat for music apps. Sign into your Android policy account. Google's take on Apple's live activities is set to go live with full functionality with Android 16's first quarterly release. Expected to roll out sometime in September, the QPR1 update will bring dynamic and progressive notifications that let you track activities in real time via your Pixel's lock screen and status bar. Activities can include the likes of food delivery tracking, alerts and timers, ride-hailing app pickup, navigation, and more. Unfortunately, though, it looks like the new notification class won't play nice with your favorite music players. Related. For reference, music players already get elevated permissions when it comes to screen real estate. Controls show up under the Quick Settings menu when you swipe down, alongside a prominent widget on the lock screen and always on display AOD. There is, however, no status bar chip that you can quickly tap to access controls or get track information at a glance. Android 16's new dynamic notification class could have solved this, but, alas, it won't. This is primarily because music and other media apps don't utilize a new notification template, one that is crucial for a notification to be elevated to the live update status. There's a template dilemma. As highlighted by credible Android analyst Mishal Rahman in an Android Authority report, for a notification to be elevated to the live update status, it needs to be marked as an ongoing activity. Include a short summary to be displayed in the status bar chip. Declare the post_promoted_notifications permission. Call the request promoted ongoing API to elevate it to a live update. Use the progress style notification template. Music audio streaming apps can fulfill all of those requirements, barring the crucial progress style notification template. Said apps already use a dedicated media style template to gain elevated media playback notifications. This allows their notifications to be pinned to the quick settings panel, lock screen and AOD. Migrating to the progress style template would let media players retain their position on the lock and AOD, paired with a new status bar chip. However, that would come at the cost of losing their prominent placement under the quick settings panel. This is a trade-off that media apps are very unlikely to make. Whether Google ends up making adjustments to let multiple notification template styles be classified as live updates remains to be seen. Related. More details emerge about Google's highly anticipated Android 16 notification upgrade. We now know more about Google's plan to fix your chaotic notification panel. Sign into your Android policy account. Notification management is one of the areas where Android excels, to the point where many believe Google's operating system handles notifications better than Apple's iOS. However, there is still a lot that Android can learn from iOS to improve its handling of notifications. Time will tell whether Google wants to learn from Apple, but for now, it looks like the Mountain View tech firm is borrowing from one of its popular services to fix Android's chaotic notification panel. Related. In December last year, we reported that Google is working on a new notification feature called notification bundling in Android 16. The purpose of this is to silence and group similar notifications to reduce clutter.
We haven't seen it working on Android 16 yet, but it looks like the company is getting close to releasing it. As more details about the highly anticipated feature have emerged. What new do we know about Google's notification plans for Android 16? As spotted by Android authorities Mishal Rahman, a renowned Android expert, Google's notification bundling has been changed to Notification Organizer in the Android 1616 QP-R1 Beta 2 release. However, the feature still does exactly what we previously reported, like Gmail. It automatically sorts each notification into any of the 4 categories, including promotions, news, social, and recommendations. Image, Android Authority. It's not just the name that Google changed. The company is now more categorical about how it's managed to do it. As revealed by the Android expert, the feature description now says that it's powered by AI and may contain errors. While the feature isn't activated in the latest Android 16 release, folks over at Android Authority have managed to bring the feature's settings page on a Pixel 8 Pro running Android 16 QPR1 Beta 2. The settings page has revealed that it'll allow users to select what apps they don't want to be grouped or categorized. So, if you want to exempt, let's say, WhatsApp from this rule, you will be able to do that from the settings. The ability to opt out also helps when it repeatedly miscategorizes alerts from specific apps. When is this coming, and will it be available for all 16 devices? Android Authority speculates that we might see this feature in the first quarterly release of Android 16. But it isn't all good news, as it might not work on all Android 16 devices. This is because, as pointed out by Rahman, the AI service that it's using to declutter Android's notifications is part of the Notification Assistant service, which is a proprietary Google feature. However, we still can't rule out the possibility of Google finding ways to activate it on all Android 16 phones. We're hopeful. Related. Android 16's back button bug is fixed, but you'll still have to wait. One of Android 16's most annoying bugs is finally getting a fix. Sign into your Android policy account. It's been nearly a week since Google rolled out the stable Android 16 build for Pixel devices. While the update brings a few cool features and has been mostly stable, it also introduces a couple of issues. Soon after Android 16 began rolling out, users reported the back navigation gesture becoming unresponsive. Earlier today, reports surfaced of Tap to Wake not working on some Google Pixel devices after updating to Android 16. Thankfully, Google seems to have fixed the former. Related. Earlier this week, multiple users noted that the back gesture had stopped working properly on some devices, leaving users with no choice but to restart their phones to restore functionality. There were also reports of the 3-button navigation bar freezing and not working correctly, particularly on Pixel 8 and Pixel 9 series devices. But it appears Google has found a fix. Android 16's broken back gesture is finally getting patched. Google reached out to Android Police co-founder Artem Rusakovsky, confirming that the company has already fixed the bug affecting the back gesture. However, the update with the fix hasn't rolled out yet. It appears Google will include the patch in the next Android 16 update. While the issue doesn't seem to be widespread, if you're still facing it, restarting the device is currently the only workaround. Some users noted that the bug surfaces more often when using third-party launchers, and switching back to the Pixel launcher might help. Still, it's frustrating that Google has addressed the bug internally but hasn't released the fix. We don't yet know when the next Android 16 update will arrive, but the best guess is sometime next month alongside the July security patch, meaning users might wait another 2 weeks for the fix to arrive. In addition to the back gesture issue, some users have also reported problems with scheduled dark light mode not working, though Google has not yet commented on a fix for that. Related.
Samsung S25 Ultra System Updating, Google Search. This is going to be a 4-stage update to have our usual software update with the latest security patch. We have some performance improvements. Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, important 4-part update, with one problem. Sack attack. Samsung Galaxy S25 series update includes core software update, Google Play System update, Galaxy Store app updates, and Play Store app updates. Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra just got a massive 4-part update. Sack attack. A massive new update for the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra that does bring some new features to the table. Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra gets massive One UI 7.0 update, new. Sack attack. Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra April update brings live notifications for media player, new battery icon, and charging animation. Galaxy S25 Ultra April update, fixed. Sam Mobile. AI overview. An AI overview is not available for this search. Can generate an AI overview right now. Try again later. AI overview. +5. To update the system on a Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, navigate to settings greater than system updates greater than check for system updates, if an update is available. Tap, download now. After downloading, tap, install update. The device will restart with the new software. Additionally, ensure your apps are up to date through the Google Play Store by going to manage apps and devices greater than updates. Here's a more detailed breakdown. 1. Check for updates. Open the settings app on your S25 Ultra. Scroll down and select system updates. Tap check for system updates. If a new update is available, you'll see the option to download it. 2. Download and install. Tap download now to begin downloading the update. Once the download is complete, you'll be prompted to install it. Tap install update. The device will power down and then restart with the new software. 3. App updates. Open the Google Play Store app. Tap your profile icon, then manage apps and devices. Select updates. Tap update all to update all your apps. 4. Important notes. Ensure your device is connected to Wi-Fi and has sufficient battery power before starting the update process. Samsung also provides regular Google Play System updates, which can be checked in settings greater than security and privacy greater than Google Play System update. Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, important 4-part update, with 1. The 13th of June 2025, try going to settings greater than about phone greater than software information greater than Google Play System update. Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra gets massive One UI 7.0 update, new. The 26th of April 2025. Software update for the Samsung Galaxy S24, S24 Plus, S24 Ultra, AT&T. Update software asterisk. Make sure your device is fully charged and connected to Wi-Fi. Swipe down from the notification bar and select settings. Scroll to and say, this video explains how to update the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Samsung Galaxy Google Pixel 10 isn't out yet, but you can already buy its guts. Sign into your Android policy account. Rumors indicate Google will launch the Pixel 10 family on August 20th, with the phones going on sale soon after. With over a month to go, retail leaks surrounding the phones have picked up pace, revealing the color and storage options. So far, it's the usual pre-launch leak cycle that happens with almost every other phone that's due to launch soon. But, since it's a Pixel we are talking about, the leaks are bound to be next level, with an engineering motherboard of the phone going up for sale. Related. The Google Pixel 10 prototype motherboard listing on Goofish offers a clear look at the Tensor G5, with serial numbers blurred to prevent Google from identifying the source of the leak. According to the seller, this EVT 1.0 board for the Pixel 10 is guaranteed to boot. If that sounds convincing, you can buy the prototype motherboard for 7,777 yen, $53. Do note that this is just the board. You won't get a prototype phone, so you'll need to know your way around EVT hardware to make any use of it. The Pixel 10's Tensor G5 could look like this. This is the same website where Apatow quality image of the Pixel 10's back panel leaked less than 24 hours ago. Plus, you'll find several other prototype devices and EVT motherboards on sale. So, there's little reason to doubt that the EVT Pixel 10 motherboard is fake. Google Pixel 10 could center around the all-new Tensor G5. The Tensor G5 will be the star of the Pixel 10 lineup this year. It is supposedly fabricated on TSMC's more efficient 3nm node. The same one that Apple uses for making the iPhone 16 Pro's A18 Pro chip. This should help significantly reduce power consumption and improve thermal performance, addressing a long-standing issue of Google's Tensor chips. Don't expect any major performance boost, though, with Google seemingly sticking to outdated CPU cores. Given that there is over a month to go for Google to take the wraps off the Pixel 10, expect more leaks surrounding the device to pop up in the coming days and weeks. Exclusive. How Google built the Pixel 10's Tensor G5 without Samsung's help, our Android. The question is, how much will they reduce heat and power? If the efficiency curve is around S8G3 or D9300, but 2 years later, is that a good result? Efficiency and max power generally tend to go hand in hand if you have more powerful, wider cores and GPUs. You generally don't have to drive them as hard to reach the same performance, and gain in efficiency and everyday performance as well as benchmark results. Google Tensor G5 chip uses a Samsung Exynos modem despite TSMC switch, Sam Mobile. Last updated, June 3, 2025 at 2016 Coordinated Universal Time +2. Sam Mobile has affiliate and sponsored partnerships, we may earn a commission. Google's next Tensor chip has a Samsung connection despite TSMC switch. The Tensor G5 is Google's first chip that isn't made by Samsung Foundry. Phone. All the Tensor chips launched by Google have been partly developed and manufactured by Samsung. However, the company's next chip, the Tensor G5, is reportedly fabricated by TSMC. But this switch doesn't mean there's no Samsung connection to it. Pixel 10's Tensor G5 chip uses Samsung's Exynos 5G modem. The Pixel 10 Pro is expected to go official next month, but it has been leaked already. It appeared in the Telegram channel Mystic Leaks, revealing the specifications of the Tensor G5 processor. It has an octa-core CPU featuring 1 Cortex-X4 CPU core, 5 Cortex-X725 CPU cores divided into 2 clusters, and 2 Cortex-A520 CPU cores. It appears to be using the Exynos 5400 modem from Samsung. The Exynos 5400 is the same 5G modem used in the previous generation Tensor chip. It is also features in the Exynos 2400 and the Exynos 2400E chips used in the Galaxy S24 series. This modem is made on a 4 nanometers fabrication process and is compatible with mmWave and sub-6 GHz 5G networks. It has a maximum download speed of up to 14.79 gigabits per second when combining FR1 and FR2 bandwidth and up to 11.2 gigabits per second with 1024 QAM when using just FR1. It also features NB-IoT and NR-NTN connectivity for low Earth orbit satellite connectivity for emergency calling and messaging. But Exynos is not the only Samsung component used in the Pixel 10 series. The Pixel 10 Pro appears to use the DRAM memory and UFS storage made by Samsung. Electronics. Who knows, Pixel 10 series phones might also use OLED panels from Samsung Display. An earlier report claimed that the Tensor G5 will use a 5G modem from MediaTek, but based on the leaked device, that doesn't appear to be the case. So, despite a switch to TSMC, which is said to be at least a 4-year switch, the next generation Pixel 10 phones still have several parts from Samsung. Electronics. You can't buy Galaxy Z Flip 7 FE from carriers in the United States, Sam Mobile. Last updated, July 9, 2025 at 19:05 Coordinated Universal Time +2. Sam Mobile has affiliate and sponsored partnerships, we may earn a commission. You can't buy Galaxy Z Flip 7 FE from carriers in the United States. Samsung isn't selling the phone through US carriers. Phone. Samsung unveiled the Galaxy Z Flip 7 FE today, its first, fan edition, branded foldable, which is priced $200 less than the new Galaxy Z Flip 7 and positioned as a more affordable entry point into Samsung's foldable Galaxy. Customers in the United States typically purchase their phones from carriers on payment plans. While both the Galaxy Z Fold 7 and Z Flip 7 are being sold by carriers as expected, the Galaxy Z Flip 7 is not. No carrier versions of the Galaxy Z Flip 7 FE in the US. Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T have all confirmed their pre-order deals and pricing details for the Galaxy Z Fold 7 and Galaxy Z Flip 7. Their announcements didn't include the Galaxy Z Flip 7 FE and neither do their online stores have any listings for the device. Samsung's official...
Okay, no one wants to buy any. One straight phone, no fold up. Maybe too chunky, too stupid. One
One UI 8 stable update is here with Samsung's new foldables. TLDR. Samsung's highly anticipated Galaxy Z Fold 7, Flip 7, and Flip 7 FE are finally here. As expected, the new devices are the first from the company to ship with One UI 8 based on Android 16. Older models, including the Galaxy S25 series, are expected to receive the update in the coming weeks. At today's Galaxy Unpacked event, Samsung lifted the covers off its latest foldable phones. The all-new Galaxy Z Fold 7 and Flip 7 bring several noteworthy hardware upgrades over last year's models. And they're joined by an all-new budget-friendly option, the Galaxy Z Flip 7 FE. All three devices also bring some new AI capabilities to the table and, as speculated, they're the first to ship with Samsung's latest operating system, One UI 8. Big savings on WIBOT robot pool cleaners for Prime Day 2025. See all deals. Although Samsung had built a strong track record of timely platform upgrades in recent years, the One UI 7 rollout was nothing short of a debacle. Following multiple delays, the company finally pushed stable Android 15 to its devices just a few months ago. However, with One UI 8 based on Android 16, Samsung appears to be getting back on course. Samsung has benefited from Google's accelerated Android 16 release timeline and confirmed that its latest foldables will ship with One UI 8. The company is also testing One UI 8 builds for older models, which should receive stable updates in the coming weeks. As seen in beta builds over the last few weeks, One UI 8 introduces several new features and changes, like a better reminders app, a more powerful Dex mode, new preset routines and routine actions, revamped weather and notes apps, call captions, and much more. For foldable phones, Samsung has included a better 90:10 multitasking split screen view and Galaxy AI feature optimizations for large screen devices. Samsung has yet to share a One UI 8 release timeline for other Galaxy devices. However, it shouldn't be long before the stable update rolls out to the Galaxy S25 series. Stay tuned to our coverage to be among the first to know when stable One UI 8 is available for your Galaxy smartphone. Got a tip? Talk to us. Email our staff at news@androidauthority.com. You can stay anonymous or get credit for the info, it's your choice.
Okay, Android. Intermix sector. Goodbye. See you later. Bye. 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 Bye.